Welcome to this explainer. You know, the brain usually steals all the credit for keeping us alive, acting like it's doing absolutely all the heavy lifting. But the truth is, there's this vast, silent, and highly coordinated chemical web operating entirely behind the scenes. It's making absolutely sure you breathe, grow, sleep, and survive, all without you having to consciously think about it. Today, we're going to map out this incredible invisible communication network running your body right now, what we like to call the chemical internet.
Here's the roadmap for our journey today. First, we'll cover the body's chemical network. Then, the master controllers, followed by metabolism and daily rhythms. After that, we'll hit stress and sugar balance, reproduction and other organs, and finally, wrap up with how hormones actually work.
All right, let's jump right into Section 1, the body's chemical network. So our bodies essentially rely on two main communication networks. Your neural system, that is exactly like sending a direct text message. It's super fast, it's point-to-point, but it's very short-lived. Now think about why that distinction really matters. If every single one of the trillions of cells in your body had a physical wire connected to it, we'd basically be made entirely of nerves. And since our cellular functions need continuous 24/7 regulation, a wired system just isn't gonna cut it. So we can contrast those direct text messages of the nervous system with the endocrine system. This is much more like a broad Wi-Fi broadcast or a social media post. The endocrine system uses chemical messengers that wash through your entire bloodstream. They reach absolutely everywhere, but only specific followers, the target cells, can actually read the posts. It's honestly a true masterpiece of biological efficiency.
And that brings us to the actual data packet being sent across our chemical internet, the hormone. In the past, scientists thought of hormones simply as chemicals produced by specific ductless glands. But today, the modern scientific definition is that they are non-nutrient chemicals acting as intracellular messengers. And remarkably, they're produced in only trace amounts. It is genuinely wild to realize that it takes such a microscopic quantity of a chemical to completely alter human behavior, spark massive physical growth, or trigger basic survival instincts. It really doesn't take much volume at all to send a very, very loud signal across the entire body.
If we map out where these chemical factories are located, you'll see they're distributed from your head all the way down to your pelvis. We've got the major players right here, the pineal, pituitary, and hypothalamus up in the brain, the thyroid and parathyroid in the neck, the thymus in the chest, the adrenals and pancreas in the abdomen, and the gonads down below. It's a widely distributed network, physically separated across your anatomy, yet somehow perfectly integrated to function as one single system.
Moving right along to Section 2, the master controllers. Located right at the base of the forebrain, the hypothalamus is the ultimate CEO of this whole operation. It regulates a huge spectrum of body functions using these special neurosecretory cells. Interestingly enough, though, it doesn't usually do the ground-level managing itself. Instead, the hypothalamus issues the overarching big-picture commands. How? By producing two specific types of hormones, releasing hormones and inhibiting hormones. These distinct signals determine exactly what messages its second-in-command should be sending out next.
And that second-in-command is the anterior pituitary gland. Acting as the vice president, it sits in a tiny bony cavity just below the hypothalamus. It churns out an impressive roster of 6 major hormones that act as regional target managers for the rest of the body. For instance, growth hormone regulates your overall body size. Too much leads to gigantism, too little to dwarfism. TSH orders the thyroid to get to work. ACTH manages the adrenal cortex, and LH and FSH stimulate the gonads. It's this incredible control center routing specific signals all over the anatomical map.
But keep this in mind. The other half of this gland, the posterior pituitary, doesn't actually make its own hormones. The dynamic here is super interesting. While the anterior half is this highly active manufacturing plant, the posterior half is basically a passive storage facility. It stores and releases two crucial chemicals synthesized by the CEO, the hypothalamus. Those are oxytocin, which stimulates smooth muscle contraction, absolutely crucial during childbirth, and vasopressin, also known as antidiuretic hormone, which literally tells your kidneys to conserve water.
Okay, let's shift gears to Section 3, metabolism and daily rhythms.
Tucked away on the dorsal side of the forebrain is the pineal gland. This little gland is the primary biological clock of our chemical internet. It dictates your sleep cycles by secreting melatonin, which plays a massive role in maintaining your 24-hour diurnal rhythm. So every single time you feel naturally sleepy at night or find yourself waking up easily with the morning sun, you are experiencing this exact pineal broadcast in action. It literally tells your body when it's time to wake up, when to sleep, and it even influences things like your core body temperature and daily metabolism.
Heading down to the windpipe, the thyroid and parathyroid glands work together as a crucial dual thermostat for both your metabolic rate and your blood calcium levels. The thyroid produces the hormones T3 and T4, which, by the way, require iodine to function properly. These regulate your basal metabolic rate, which is essentially just how fast your body burns fuel for everyday energy. But look closely at the calcium side of things. The thyroid releases TCT to directly lower your blood calcium. Meanwhile, the tiny parathyroid glands right behind it release PTH to increase that calcium. It's a perfectly balanced biological seesaw, keeping your internal chemistry perfectly stabilized. Next up, Section 4, Stress and Sugar Balance.
Picture this. Have you ever missed a step on the stairs and felt your heart instantly pound in your chest? Or maybe someone jumped out and scared you? That terrifying split second where your pupils dilate, you start sweating, and your hair stands on end? That sets off our body's rapid chemical fight or flight response. And this entire emergency cascade is managed by the adrenal glands.
You have one adrenal gland sitting like a little cap right on top of each kidney. And they have this fascinating dual nature, which is honestly some incredible biological engineering. The inner tissue, the medulla, handles your immediate emergencies by instantly dumping adrenaline and noradrenaline into your blood. That's what gives you that sudden surge of strength and alertness. But right next to it, the outer cortex manages more of a slow burn. It produces cortisol for long-term stress management and carbohydrate metabolism, plus aldosterone to carefully maintain your fluid balance and blood pressure over time. So you have instant response and long-term management packed into one single gland.
Right nearby is the pancreas, a composite gland with patches of tissue called the islets of Langerhans, and it handles its very own delicate seesaw effect. When your blood sugar drops, alpha cells secrete glucagon. This tells the liver to release stored glucose, a process known as a hyperglycemic effect. On the flip side, when you eat a heavy meal and your blood sugar spikes, beta cells secrete insulin. This causes your cells to rapidly absorb that glucose to bring the levels back down, a hypoglycemic effect. Now, when this delicate balance fails and high blood sugar is prolonged, that's what leads to diabetes mellitus.
Let's dive into Section 5, Reproduction and Other Organs.
Here we're talking about the gonads, the testes in males and ovaries in females. These act as both primary sex organs and vital endocrine glands. The testes produce androgens, mainly testosterone, which stimulate muscular growth, a deeper voice, and spermatogenesis. The ovaries produce estrogen for female secondary sex characteristics and follicle development, while also producing progesterone, a hormone that's fundamentally critical to supporting pregnancy. It's pretty incredible to think about this dual role. These glands are completely responsible for driving the physical blueprint of the adult body while simultaneously making the creation of the next generation possible.
Now, you might be totally surprised to learn that even organs we don't traditionally think of as glands actually log into this chemical Wi-Fi network to broadcast their own crucial updates. The atrial wall of your heart, for example, secretes ANF to actually decrease your blood pressure if it starts getting too high. Your kidneys produce erythropoietin to stimulate the formation of new red blood cells, and your gastrointestinal tract releases a whole suite of hormones, things like gastrin and secretin, to perfectly time the release of digestive juices as food makes its way through your system.
And finally, we arrive at Section 6, How Hormones Actually Work.
So let's look at how this builds a complete communication loop at the microscopic level. A hormone just rushing past a cell does absolutely nothing unless that cell has a matching receptor protein. The crucial point here is that a hormone only works if a specific target cell has the exact receptor, kind of like a highly secure password, to unlock that specific chemical message. Protein hormones usually bind to receptors on the outside of the cell membrane, essentially ringing the doorbell to trigger secondary messengers inside. Steroid hormones, on the other hand, slip right through the cell membrane to bind with intracellular receptors. They literally just let themselves right into the house, often directly interacting with the cell's genome to regulate gene expression.
We've seen how everything from your basal metabolism to your response to a terrifying emergency relies on microscopic trace amounts of chemicals perfectly hitting their specific targets. This delicate, highly integrated communication network leaves us with a fascinating question to ponder. If our biological internet is this perfectly calibrated, relying on microscopic chemical passwords, what happens when just one signal gets blocked or hacked? The profound fragility and yet the incredible resilience of the human endocrine system leaves us with endless mysteries to explore. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer.